I am Lowell Thomas, and today the question is whether man is physically able to keep up with the progress wrought by his brain. One investigative approach has been made by land by a man whose business it is to keep his feet on the ground while poking his head into the clouds. The man who has been to the top of the world, the conqueror of Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary. Greetings, Ed.
Hello, Lowell. A prolonged scientific study of the process of man's acclimatization to high altitudes under real but controlled conditions had not been made at such heights as those offered by the Himalayas, there being lesser work done. We believe that a program devoted to the advanced physiological research over an extended period above 19,000 feet could contribute a great deal to our knowledge of high-altitude physiology and to the medical literature on the subject. Our plan was to establish 3 camps at various high altitudes for our physiological testing to give us a wider range for scientific investigation. After a considerable search, we found a pleasant, relatively flat snow rib, safe from avalanches from above, with excellent access to the Green Hut, and I decided that this was the place. Here, on a rounded ridge at 19,000 feet, we shoveled out a platform in preparation for the erection of the prefab hut.
You certainly were in the shadow of a mountain.
Yes, Ahmed Blum stood over us like a guardian. I might add that it became an inescapable challenge to our mountaineers. When the platform was leveled, we put the sections together that formed the foundation and hauled them up into position. This was very hard work at this altitude.
Ed, is that Ahmed Blum col in the background?
Yes.
A col, then, is a ridge connecting 2 peaks, here usually covered with snow.
That's right, Lowell. These are the hut sections. Once the foundation was laid out, we anchored it.
How in the world could you anchor a foundation here?
I used a method, Lowell, I'd found successful in the Antarctic. We jammed large canvas kit bags with snow, wound steel cables around them, then buried them in holes dug in the snow. There were 11 bags. When they froze hard, they became immovable, and so did the foundation.
Most ingenious.
After anchoring the foundation, we began the job of assembling the sections. Fortunately, the pieces went together like a giant jigsaw puzzle, according to plan, all 120 of them. The hut was 22 feet long and 10 feet in diameter, with a total weight of only 1 ton. Having finished the Green Hut, Remains gave us a hand, and by the end of the first day, the outside was completed. The sections were made up of 2 pieces of aluminum painted plywood, separated by 3 inches of foam plastic insulation. Even before the hut was completed, our scientists were experimenting with the available Sherpas.
Time out for tea?
No, coffee break. In the next 3 weeks, the 50 loads of scientific equipment were installed and the hut finished off for occupancy, with a 100-day supply of food and fuel on hand. Because of its outside aluminum paint, from a distance the hut looked like a piece of giant silver drain pipe, so we dubbed it the Silver Hut. Here, Tom Nevison, our U.S. Air Force physician, is checking out our gasoline generator, which produced the electric power for the hut. Our heat came from a kerosene space stove. Nearby, we dug a giant snow cave, which gave us plenty of storage space for keeping supplies at a fairly constant temperature.
You're a deep freeze.
It may be of interest to you that our drinking water came from melted snow, and that the volume of snow to water is about 10 to 1. Not all of the scientific work was physiology. Barry Bishop, who worked on meteorology and glaciology, here is setting up a simple but comprehensive weather station. On a 12-foot mast, he installed 4 anemometers, which are wind measuring cups that spin in the breeze to register wind velocity. Here, certainly, we had the most elaborately equipped laboratory in the world ever established at 19,000 feet above sea level.
How did you manage to get all that glassware up there and get it there intact?
Fortunately, very little was broken on the march in. By mid-December, life on the Silver Hut had settled down to a happy routine. Even with 8 bunks, there was room enough for the men to lounge and relax away from their duties, and the Silver Hut served as radio central for all camps. This is Dr. Griffith Pugh, the leader of the scientific party, and he's analysing an air sample. Dr. Lahiri, the Indian physiologist, and he's working on the carbon dioxide content of the blood. Here he is analysing an arterialised sample. Tom Neverson describes his own program.
We have here quite an elaborate yet lightweight system for recording some 10 odd types of medical and biological information from a climber. Oh, for example, his heart rate, his respiration, and his brain waves. And my job here really is to test out this equipment, which possibly will find its way someday into an astronaut's space cabin.
Here, Neverson is inserting electrodes for registering brain waves, the electrical discharges from brain cells. We all nicknamed this experiment the Frankenstein. Quite justifiably, don't you think?
They look a little like the unholy three to me.
The bicycle enabled us to measure a man's work capacity. As he pedalled, we would take blood samples and collect his expired air. Dr. Ward, the London surgeon, is examining blood samples with the aid of a microscope. Our most intensive scientific projects were concerned with the functioning of the lungs, heart and blood. This is Dr. Jim Millage, physiologist with the British Medical Research Council. Mike Gill, one of our physiologists, tells us about some of his work.
Well, we're trying to get to some measure of our mental capacity up here. And this particular test is designed to measure your reaction time. It tells you how long it takes to decide what that card is. And we want to see whether your reaction time is slower up here than it is at sea level.
The expedition was a considerable success. We harvested a mass of valuable scientific data on man's capacity to live at high altitudes. The evidence indicates that sea level man is not really equipped to live above 18,000 feet indefinitely without supplementary oxygen, and he certainly deteriorates progressively at such heights. And to those courageous, cheerful, unselfish and uncomplaining participants in the expedition, Sherpas and Saabs alike, with whom I lived and worked high in the thin cold air, let us dedicate this film.